84 WHAS. We will resume coming up with Obama scandals after this next segment. My friend Alan Claypool from TAC4 Solutions is in the studio talking about his next tackle with TAC4, and it's next Tuesday night, and it's going to be a humdinger.
It is. This is our biggest one, I believe.
Well, it's featuring one of my favorite people in the world, Jim Waters, who
you have on all the time.
In all honesty, if I needed someone to argue something for me on my behalf, I would consider sending Jim Waters, because he is incredibly knowledgeable and he likes to be extremely informed going into something. And he's going up against a formidable opponent in Tom Fitzgerald, a well-known environmental activist in the Commonwealth. And they are talking about coal.
Yes.
So this should be a humdinger.
Fitzgerald is from Kentucky Resources Council, and he, like you said, environmental lawyer. He won the Heinz Carey Award for environmental law and environmental work in 2008.
Now, I believe he's also either considering a run for the U.S. Senate against McConnell, or is already announced.
He is not announced, I don't believe, but it was in Courier Journal that he is kind of throwing his name around. Yes.
Now, they're going to have a conversation about coal. The question being, should the state be allowed to regulate coal that does not leave Kentucky?
Yes.
Which is kind of an interesting question.
Mm-hmm. It's a question of the interstate commerce, that this is really intrastate, that a large percentage of coal in Kentucky stays in Kentucky. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Jim said like 30 or 40% of the coal that is mined in Kentucky stays in Kentucky. And so from one perspective, the question would be, why is that under EPA regulation at all? Interstate commerce does not apply in this case. And there was a bill submitted to the West Virginia legislature about this very thing, about intrastate coal use.
Okay, so it's really, should the state, as in the federal government, be allowed, or the actual Commonwealth be allowed?
The state of Kentucky, yes.
Okay.
Commonwealth of Kentucky should, since it's not intrastate commerce, why would interstate commerce, it's intrastate commerce, then why would any federal regulation apply, is the question that we are asking.
Well, that's kind of interesting. Now, for people who are not familiar with the Tackle with TAC4 events, they are different. They're not just two guys standing it up there, verbally slugging it out. And this is a work in progress for you, because this is a theory or an idea that you had. Has it been almost a year?
Yes.
It's been almost a year. And when you first came in here, I thought this was nuts. But now I'm kind of in love with the whole concept. But let's real quick go over the 7 ground rules for political discourse. We've gone over these so many times, but they're always worth repeating. Always worth repeating. So what are the 7 ground rules for political discourse?
So when our panelists are discussing, we want them to keep in mind these ground rules. And what we're telling them this time is, be yourself. Be who you always are in all of your other conversations. And what we're going to do, we, the judges, the coaches that are helping to moderate the event, are going to help keep them in line with what these ground rules are. We're going to sort of pause the event, pause the discussion when they go deeply outside of these ground rules. Mm-hmm. And we're going to, because the ground rules...
I think there should be a giant buzzer, Alan, like that.
We're throwing a football flag.
Nice, very nice. It's all fun and games till someone gets hit in the eye with the football flag. But it is important, and this has been one of the biggest challenges for the panelists that you've had, is to make their point, because there's no doubt that the people you've had on these panels before, no matter what the issue, are passionate about their respective issues. But sticking to these ground rules has proven to be something of a sticky wicket.
It's very difficult for everyone, because we are human. And as human, we are egocentric, believing that we are right, that we have absolute truth in our head. And the reality is we do not. And so in the words of Alexander Hamilton, we are trying to furnish a lesson of moderation to those who are ever so much persuaded of their being right in any controversy. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So the pause of the event, when they go outside of the ground rules, we're going to kind of throw a flag, hand them the football, and say, now let's think through the mindset behind what you said, and let's align that with truth. And the truth is getting in line with these ground rules, that you don't have the full picture, that the other side really does have positive intent. So let me quickly run through the ground rules.
Let's rip through the ground rules.
Ground rule number 1, show respect with no hint of blame.
And the blame part's the tricky one. It's easy to show respect, but without the hint of blame, that's where, if you really believe that someone is flat out wrong about their opinions about what's right for the Commonwealth, it is difficult to hold back that you're wrong.
And we are not wanting them. One thing that's happened in some of the debates is that the panelists wanted to so care about the ground rules that they didn't really say what they were thinking. We want them to say what they are thinking. If it's true, we want you to say it. And if it goes outside of the ground rules in terms of blame, then the coaches, we will help you think through that and what is the truth, how do you say what is really true? Hey, this person did this, right, and it is not okay. How do you say that while also not blaming that person? And so we, the coaches, have worked with, this is what we do in business. We work with business consultants, with business leaders to get them to think differently about what is right and what is wrong. And so then ground rule 2 is very similar to that. Assume positive intent from all on the other side. By the way, that blame is not just the blame of the person you're standing in front of, but really all the people who represent the argument on that side of the fence. So, for instance, I'm guessing that Jim Waters will probably want to blame EPA and the regulators, and Tom Fitzgerald will probably want to blame coal companies, right, and not assume positive intent from the other side.
See, I actually think this one, in my mind, would be the easiest to assume positive intent on, because who doesn't want a clean environment? You know, and it's easy to see why Tom Fitzgerald would be very invested, and he thinks he's doing the right thing for everyone in the Commonwealth, because he's protecting the environment that we live in. But on the flip side of that, you have the coal producers who have provided jobs for generations of coal miners and have provided cheap electricity that have allowed certain industries to flourish in the Commonwealth, raising the standard of living in those areas for a lot of people. So to me, I could see positive intent on both sides of this issue.
Could you also see positive intent from the EPA?
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at where the founding of the EPA came from, absolutely. It was incredibly well-intentioned. Do I believe they overreach now? Yes, I do.
Are they trying to destroy jobs?
I think that they are more concerned with an agenda than they are with jobs right now. I do think that.
Okay, so that would possibly be.
I don't think that's their end
negative
game.
Intent.
Well, but no, because I could argue that they believe their agenda is a positive agenda, and that without a healthy environment, the jobs don't matter.
Okay,
so
good.
I can see where their intentions are. I just disagree with the way they're going about it.
Out. Okay.
Exactly.
Very good. Very good.
Number 3, understand and care about the other side's needs, fears, and propose solutions.
And this is a big part of our event. We're actually we're letting each panelist have a monologue, like a 7-minute monologue, and then we're sitting one of the panelists down, and the coaches, me and 2 other coaches, are working with the panelists to get down to their core needs. What needs are they trying to meet with their solutions? Fears, what are they trying to protect from against the other side? And solutions, what are your solutions? And we're going to actually write those on the board so that we've got them through the rest of the debate. And we as the coaches are working to say, like, tell me more, let's get deeper. That doesn't seem like the true core need. Or what's the definition around that word? Like, for instance, at the prior debate, somebody said, I want to protect the civil liberties of immigrants. That was our debate, was on immigrants. And so we needed a lot of definition of what do you mean around civil liberties. Right. So that's what we get on the board. What are these needs, fears, and proposed solutions? And we write them on the board so that each panelist can care not just about their needs, but the other side's needs as well. How can I tweak my solutions so that I'm meeting more needs than just my side?
We're going to continue this after the break. I've got Alan Claypool from Tackle with TAC4. They've got a great event coming up Tuesday night. We'll tell you where it is and how you can get details and tickets and all that good stuff right after this on 84 WHAS. Currently 72 degrees on 84 WHAS. My friend Alan Claypool from TAC4 Solutions in the studio today. It's another Tackle with TAC4 event next Tuesday. This one with our own Jim Waters from the Bluegrass Institute and Tom Fitzgerald. He is the director of the Kentucky Resources Council and noted environmentalist. This one is going to be on coal. And specifically, should the state be allowed to regulate coal that does not leave Kentucky? Now, that's a very specific question, Alan. Will it stay on that specific question, or is it going to become a broader discussion about the role of coal in Kentucky? Because I'm interested in that.
All of these debates that we've had, we've tried to narrow the topic somewhat, because if you don't, then it's just a meander fest all over. And so we try to get as focused as we can. But with any topic, you're going to meander outside. So I'm sure we will talk some about mountaintop removal and about jobs in the Eastern Kentucky. There'll be all sorts of discussions, but we, the coaches, will try to keep it as centered on one topic as possible. So we'll keep coming back to that one topic, but yes, it'll also branch out a little bit here and there.
We went through the first 3 ground rules of the 7 ground rules: show respect with no hint of blame, assume positive intent from all on the other side, and understand and care about the other side's needs, fears, and proposed solutions.
Can I come back to number 2 just a second?
Ahead.
On assume positive intent for the other side, one reason that that's so important is because when I approach, if you're on the other side of me and you and I are having a conversation and I approach you and I say, this is what the other side thinks, and you're on the other side and you know that's not what the other side thinks, then that doesn't align with what you absolutely know to be true. Because of that, you just shut me down for everything else I say. And so to have effective political discourse, we need to assume positive intent from the other side because it's true of the other side. And the other side's going to reject anything that they know to be not true. It doesn't mean that all of their facts in their head are correct as is, and it's okay for us to challenge those facts. But when we challenge their positive intent, they know it's not true, and so they just stop talking to us. They stop hearing anything we might say. We lose our effectiveness.
But that really does sort of outline the nature of political discourse in this country now. It's very much us against them.
Absolutely.
And what I find interesting, not to digress, but to digress, is that wouldn't it be ironic if Obama proved to be the great uniter, as everyone who has that us against them mentality can finally agree these things are bad no matter who does them. You know, these particular issues are bad.
Yes.
So in any case, okay. Number 4, do not complain without offering solutions with realistic action steps that meet both sides' needs.
And this really is about being specific on solutions, which I do believe both of these panelists are already coming to the event with some pretty detailed solutions, which is perfect. That's what we want. Throw out your solutions and let me tell you where that's not meeting my needs. And now let's tweak our solutions a little bit so that I care more as much about your needs as I care about my needs. If my solutions really did encompass, had a bigger umbrella and started meeting your side's needs better, we would have so much less polarization. Right now, a lot of our polarization is because I might be proposing a solution that you know doesn't meet your needs. And so you're not going to consider my solution at all. But if I hear what you're really saying, what your needs really are, and realize this has happened in my political discussions with, like, I've got a cousin who I adore, and she's on the far opposite side of where I am. And I started talking to her about all of my solutions and how the government should be. And she said, well, wait a minute, this, and this wouldn't be met by your solution. I had never talked to somebody who had that perspective before, and she was correct. My solution didn't meet those needs over there, and that really challenged me to say, how can I change my solutions to be more inventive, to solve more people's needs? Right now, we're only caring about our own needs, and therefore the other side doesn't listen, and we get polarized.
There you go. Number 5, clarify opinion from fact. This is a tough one for a lot of people.
It really is. I think it's going to be tough for both of these guys, except we've prepped them pretty well to know to say, and therefore I think. If we just say I believe, and you show it as your opinion, but what happens in our political commercials and in all our political discussions is that I read a statistic, and therefore I say, see, therefore it's true. Such and such is true. Well, what the such and such that I'm saying is true is really loaded up with my worldview. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, maybe one statistic was correct, and even then statistics are questionable because the people asking the questions.
We always talk about the methodology in surveys, and the questions that are not asked are almost as important as the questions that are asked.
Absolutely. So just the statistic itself probably has worldview embedded in it, and then certainly any conclusion I would make from that statistic is definitely embedded with my worldview. So just state that. We're not saying don't have opinions, don't bring statistics. We're absolutely saying bring statistics, quote your sources.
Your source, according to the Heritage Foundation, according to the EPA, so people at least get an idea of where the bent is.
And therefore my worldview would join with that and say this.
Right.
So yeah, you're aligning your words with truth. The truth is not what your belief is. The truth is that this is what you think.
Seek truth and workable solutions over political positioning. I this one I wish that we could all do all the time.
And in fact, I was listening on the way in to your show, and the callers, getting excited about the scandals, if I might say.
Yeah.
That's maybe the wrong words, but I would challenge the listeners to make sure you are caring about truth and workable solutions, not just about winning, not just about, hey, we gotcha. That would be political positioning. Mm-hmm. Let's care about truth. I absolutely care about truth and transparency and honesty. And so let's care about that, but let's not let our political fervor come up and make those on the other side turn us off, because I think we would have a lot more effect on your side of the fence if we are showing that we're really just about the truth and not about winning for the conservative side.
Well, I agree with that. The last one, where there are core philosophical differences, define the differences without accusation.
And so that really is recognizing that we come from different worldviews. That's okay that we come from different worldviews, but because of our vitriol, we so seldom get down to what is really core. And what we're trying to do with Tackle is get us down to what really is the core philosophy behind all of our thinking, so that people can make wise choices about which way they believe. So we're really asking, tell us more. What's the core behind that? Why do you think that? A lot of whys are being asked during our event. And once we get down to those core differences, then we'll say, okay, so now it makes sense why you go this way and you go the other way. And that's okay. Without accusation, we now understand a lot more than we did before.
Okay, so people can get tickets to the event by going, where do they go?
The easiest way is just to Google Tackle with TAC4, TAC, the number 4, and we've got a registration page on Eventbrite. I think you're going to post it on your blog as well, and you can sign up there for $10, or it's actually $10 at the door, or about $9 on the website pre-registration.
Fantastic.
And it's Tuesday night, 6 p.m. We're changing venues we usually have done these at the wonderful Creative Workshop, and they were booked that night, so we're moving to Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. They have a recital hall there called Heron Hall, which is inside of Cook Hall. So that's where we're having it. It's a really nice room, holds a couple hundred people, and it's going to be a great night.
Well, I have just linked to it, the Eventbrite page on my blog site. So if people can just go to WHAS.com, they can find a link there to all the information. I can't wait to hear. You know what? Can you stick around for one more segment?
Sure.
I want to talk about how these rules can be applied to more contentious issues.
Very good.
We'll be back after the Park Community Credit Union Bloomberg update. This one is service of Miller Fancy Bath and Kitchen. 84 WHAS, talking with Alan Claypool from TAC4 Solutions about the next Tackle with TAC4, and that's going to be next Tuesday night. You can find all the information. I linked to it on my blog at WHAS.com, or you can Google Tackle with TAC4, and it's TAC and the number 4, TAC and the number 4. And I hope to see you out there. The tickets are what, $10?
Yes, $10 at the door, $9, about $9 in advance.
There you go. So that's happening Tuesday night from 6 to when? I should have said that too.
It's about 9 o'clock. I think we'll end at 8:45.
Okay, 6 to 8:45. And it's at a new location if you've come to them prior. This one is at the Heron Hall on the second floor of Cook Hall at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary on Lexington Road.
Yes.
So we got that going for us. I held you over because I want to ask you some questions. We went over the 7 ground rules for political discourse, and I like them. I do. I really do try and apply them when I'm talking to people I disagree with. But in light of everything that's happened over the past week and the various scandals that are coming forth or bubbling or whatever, however you want to do this, it gets harder and harder and harder for me to look at the various things that have been going on under this administration's watch, whether or not the president knew about it or not. Okay, that's not even a part of this question. It is very difficult for me to say if the IRS has been targeting conservative groups that share my value system, that I can assume positive intent.
It's a good question.
And that's where I kind of get hung up here, because here we've got 5 different agencies. Mm-hmm. All they have in common is their boss, mm-hmm. and they have shown a pattern of misbehavior. And it is very difficult to argue, yes, there is positive intent there. I mean, unless you subscribe to the notion that the means justify the ends. How do you get past that?
Thank you for asking. Oh, you're challenging me. That's fantastic. I love it. In our business, we say that not every action I make is out of positive intent. I am, in the morning when I wake up first thing, I do want to make the world a better place. There is something inside me, some God-given desire to make the world a better place and to be a better person and to survive this crazy world of constraints honorably. All of us have a measure of grace that does make us want to make the world a better place. Then
is it bigger in some than others?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure, certainly. And,
I mean, in some, it's like the Grinch's heart was three sizes too small. So I'm thinking the Grinch's capacity for, making the world a better place. Of course, he's a made-up character in a book.
I'm not sure the capacity is different, but certainly how much I develop my awareness of wanting to make the world a better place and bring that to the forefront of my mind, absolutely, it's bigger in some than in others. Capacity, I don't know. I would suggest possibly about the same in all of us because we are all given, rain comes down on all of us from God. Grace comes to us kind of equally from God, and then what we do with that, how I develop that really becomes how much capacity I would say we have for this positive intent. But by the time I walk down the stairs and trip over the dog, and my coffee is cold when I get there, and my wife nags at me, and I drive to work and get cut off at work, and by the time I get to work, I've been assaulted by so much bad behavior in the world that my behavior just matches it. Bad behavior breeds bad behavior in others. My assuming negative intent from you confirms that negative intent with your action, because if I'm assuming negative intent from you, you're going to rebel, you're going to get defensive, and you're going to start acting in ways that aren't as admirable as the way you woke up in the morning. And so all of our bad behavior just breeds more bad behavior, but that does not equal intent. Intent in the morning, we did want to make the world a better place. And then there are actions that I have where I may not have positive intent in a given action. That doesn't mean that overall I don't want to make the world a better place. And what we suggest in our ground rules in business world is that the way I can resolve my problems better is to get more in tune with the reality that you have positive intent at your core, and that I can appeal to that positive intent so that you then can break the cycle of your bad behavior and also start caring about my needs just as I'm caring about your needs. That truly the way to solve my frustrations are to get more in tune with your needs and how I can help you with your needs, and assuming positive intent from you, lifting you up to that better, higher character so that now you're on my team as well to help me meet my needs.
How do you put that into practice in real life? Because we're looking at real life situations
Absolutely.
Here where I could argue quite convincingly that there is a level of maliciousness that has permeated this administration. Again, I'm leaving the president out of it. There's no doubt that there are people acting in this administration that are not acting properly, because I think that there is the means justify the ends kind of, or the ends justify the means attitude. And it sounds great to say, look, don't respond to that behavior and assume positive intent and say, okay, you're trying to destroy the Republican Party because you believe that progressivism is right for the country. That sounds great, but in practicality, it just for a lot of people would feel like rolling over.
And we in our business do not advocate being a doormat. What we suggest is that when I've got a frustration, I absolutely take responsibility for me solving that frustration to the point that we want people to envision like picking up a flag and writing your frustration on that flag and hold that flag until you have resolved that problem, not until you've figured out who to give the flag to, until you have figured out how to resolve that problem. And then from there, the best way to solve that problem is you never let go. You are going to solve this frustration, and you're going to start recruiting other people through this process of assuming good motives from them, through not blaming them, not even believing that you're all the way right about your frustration, but that you are right about what is frustrating you, of how it needs to be solved. Question your own virtue. Believe that you don't necessarily have the whole picture, and that person who's frustrating you might also have a piece of the puzzle that you weren't aware of. So go talk to them openly. This is not about being a doormat. This is about, I am absolutely going to get my frustration resolved. and I need to recruit you to help me resolve it. And the way to do that is to care about your needs as much as I care about my needs. Not to lay down and say, oh, I'll just sacrifice and give up everything that I needed for you. Absolutely not. Instead, it's about being more inventive so that I hear what you need and I change my solution so that it encompasses your needs and my needs. Again, not letting go of my needs. We don't want to be a doormat.
And I want to address this after the break. It sounds like, and I'm putting this through the political lens of what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now. This is an impossibility if the other team still has the victory at all costs attitude. It really is, because I'm thinking about it. We'll talk about it after this. We're going to hold Alan over. You don't have anything to do you?
I've got a lunch at 11:30. We're fine.
I just was making him stay. I just duct taped him to the chair. When we get back, I want to address when it comes to things like congressional hearings or going after people in this administration, there's going to be a political component where you have Democrats who are trying desperately to protect their party for a variety of reasons, just as Republicans would try to protect their party as well. We'll talk about that next on 84 WHAS. 84 WHAS. Okay, so on the break, I checked my email real quick. Alan Claypool from Tackle with TAC4 and TAC4 Solutions on the show. And I have numerous emails that are about what a Pollyanna he is. I think the most succinct one says, sorry, but your guest is being Pollyanna-ish. Greed and power-hungry people do exist, and they do bully their will on others. Good motives are not inherent in everyone, and he is totally discounting that altogether. And it goes back to my point about, we have people in Washington, D.C. that are very much entrenched in their power. That's the other part of this, is that, for you and I to have a conversation, or for even Jim Waters and Tom Fitzgerald to have a discussion about this, that power factor is not there. It's not necessarily a thing that Jim Waters is not trying to hold his power. Tom Fitzgerald is not trying to hold his power at the Kentucky Resources Council. So that's kind of out of the picture. Are you Pollyannish when it comes to the fact that I believe there are people in power positions in politics at every level, whether it's at a small town, at the state, in D.C., that are very invested first and foremost in keeping their power above all else?
I have spoken with politicians who, in fact, say those very words.
About other people?
No, about themselves. That I have to make this decision because if I don't, I will not get reelected. Sounds like I'm agreeing with your person that mailed in. That is behavior. That is not intent. Behavior says, I need to do such and such in order to stay in office. And that is unacceptable and terrible behavior. I love that they're calling me Pollyanna because I'm actually a big hard ass, and it's just wonderful being perceived that way. What we are saying is there is absolutely horrible behavior all over politics. In fact, that's why we've entered this fray, is because there is such bad behavior in politics, and it does need to be called out. And those are things that I need to be very strong about. And if I approach those people who have horrible behavior, assuming that they have negative intent, those people will not hear me, anything that I say, because they know they do not, at their core, have negative intent. Their actions, hideous. Their intent, they know that they entered this arena of politics in order to help their community. That was the reason they entered.
What if they didn't? Because, and I'm going to use Richie Farmer as an example here, because I do think that there was part of Richie Farmer that thought, yeah, I can do this job. But the way he abused his office and the way he abused his power, in my mind, says that he cared more about personally enriching himself through that office than he did serving the people of the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
And that very well may be true. He really may have cared more about enriching himself than he did the people. And if so, that's horrible behavior. Did he care about helping the people? And I suggest there is a piece of him that did.
A shred.
And if
nugget.
A shred. And if I approach him under the pretense that I know you have positive intent, I don't believe that your behavior warranted that, but I am appealing to your good behavior and to your good intent, and this behavior is unacceptable. This is all based on, it's based on multiple things. It's based on Jesus' teaching. It's based on a book called Leadership and Self-Deception that says if I actually care about you, see you as a valid person that you are, care about your needs, that when I do, that fact alone, that I'm seeing you as a person and caring about your needs, gives me permission to say all of the hard things that I need to say to you. This is not soft. This is hard. First of all, it's hard to make the choice to care about them and see them as a person. And second of all, it then frees you to say crazy hard things. This is what's so beautiful about this in business. In business, if we are just all Pollyanna, then we're not going to make any money because hard choices have to be made. Broken processes are all over the place, and we have to be able to hold people accountable. And that never happens in business because, especially in the South here, because we want to be so nice to each other. I don't want to tell them what I'm really thinking because that might offend them. That thing needs to be said if we're going to fix this in business. And what we're suggesting is that the way you get to say those really hard things is to show the person that you care about their needs.
So you soften the blow a little bit. Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, that's what it is.
It does soften the blow, but the intent is that you are actually seeing them as they really are. You're aligning your head with truth. You're aligning your head with the truth that they are a person that has valid needs and has reasons for doing what they're doing. They may not be good reasons, but they are reasons for doing what they're doing. And so if I get in touch with those reasons, if I let that person know, I'm here to support you. I may have to fire you, but I am here to support you and do everything I can to help you. And then we're also going to make sure that my needs as a company are being met. And that's in the political arena, that my needs in transparency and in honesty and ethics, that those are also being met. So we can say really hard things to each other as long as we are seeing them as a person. If we don't see them as a person, they're not going to hear squat about what we're saying. They're not going to hear it, and they're not going to change. And those power-hungry people are going to keep being power-hungry and keep feeding themselves because everything that we are telling them doesn't ring true to them, because we're coming to them saying you're evil, and they're saying I know I'm not evil, and so I just have to reject everything you say.
Well, I mean, I guess it goes back to the old adage that you can't control the way anyone is going to react to anything. The only thing you can control is your own personal reactions and the way you present yourself.
Good.
I just think that a lot of people in my listening audience, and partly me, Alan, I put that into a political framework of the way the discourse is in D.C. right now. And if I said to someone on the other side of the aisle, I respect that you believe that we should be a socialist nation. I respect that you feel that way. I think you're horribly, horribly wrong. And all I hear from the other side in my mind is, Rube, you're a Rube, you're a patsy, you're a sucker. We're gonna roll right over you because of your kindness.
I would suggest they have never seen someone be kind to them in the way that I'm talking right now. So you don't know if that's true or not.
We'll see, Alan. You can go see all this unfold Tuesday night. It's all happening at the Hareen Hall in the second floor of Cook Hall. Go to my website go to my blog at WHAS.com. You can click through and get tickets there. Alan, go have lunch. I'll talk to you soon, man. We'll be back after the news, traffic, and weather. Keep it on 84 WHAS.